Hey everyone from Broad Culture is Dash Ireland, and first we did say we were going to take a hiatus, but I guess from the usual stuff. But I guess I'm not on hiatus anymore. I mean, John was doing his own videos, reactions, and I'm returning to movie reviews. So anytime that there was between things, my beard is growing more and whatnot. Oh, new tattoo, Foo Fighters. Yeah, it's small, but it was a one by one deal at the tattoo shop that they were doing for Friday the 13th. But yeah, Star Wars Episode 9 review. Now, of course, my reviews not going to get popular remarks because I'm about to go up against one of the biggest fan bases of all time. Star Wars Episode 9 The Rise of Skywalker was not a great movie. Like, they tried to cram 3 movies into one. There's so many plot points that really didn't matter, or ones that could have mattered, but they really didn't have enough time to build, all that sort of stuff. So, whenever it comes to Star Wars movies, it's one of the worst ones. The plot is all jumbled and incoherent. It's inconsistent. It makes a lot of plot points. It very inconsistent with Star Wars lore and whatnot. So I'm gonna say it's about a 2 out of 5. Sure, it's visually stunning. It's got all the stuff that you love, but in terms of plot and whatnot, it's just horrible. This has always been a problem with Star Wars movies. Star Wars movies have always sucked. New Jedi, world builder, so I'll give it, a slide. Empire Strikes Back was a great sequel, had the classic plot twist, and in Return of the Jedi, that's where Star Wars really started to go downhill. Sure, it was great because you had the classic Luke versus Vader, and then Vader makes a face turn, but then that's where you start having the Ewoks to try and sell merchandise whenever George Lucas first sold out. And then you had the prequels, the awful prequels, like the Phantom Menace, one of the most hated Star Wars films. It everything was about it was horrible, like Jar Jar Binks, pod racing, Qui-Gon Jinn, but it had one of the greatest lightsaber duels of all time, which featured the Duel of the Fates, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul. Attack of the Clones, easily forgettable. Why the heck was there a CGI pair being cut with the Force? I don't know either. Revenge of the Sith. That was like the first Star Wars movie I ever saw in a theater. And also horrible. Too many flips. Pretty much whenever you see a movie where they're always doing flip jumps and crap, you know it's going to be a horrible movie. I mean, we saw that with Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And I've noticed that you see a bunch of flips and stuff, the movie is more than likely going to suck if it's not a Cirque du Soleil film. And Revenge of the Sith, it didn't really have much reveal, but it did try and introduce Darth Plagueis, but that went nowhere. It could have gone somewhere within the sequel trilogy, but it didn't. And the ending, it's just weird because you're supposed to have a like 40 something Obi-Wan and suddenly 70 or 80 something Obi-Wan 17 years later. It makes no sense in the Star Wars lore. It's very weird. And then you got the sequel trilogy, Force Awakens, just a repeat of A New Hope. That sucked. It introduced characters that really didn't matter. Last Jedi, one of the better Star Wars films, one of the best. Why? Because it does something different like The Empire Strikes Back did. And it had some curves that were nice. Now, I get into arguments with my brother, family, and many people I know that really love Star Wars, and they disagree. And I've been arguing with my girlfriend about it. So, let's get into this. So, the opening crawl was just immediate spoiler where it just literally says a dead speak. And it reveals that Palpatine is still alive, and Kylo Ren is trying to do anything to keep his power, which is stupid, considering he doesn't really put off that kind of vibe that he wants to protect his power. Because ever since The Last Jedi, it's more about he's coming back to the side of good rather than protecting his position. He has no reason to be protective of his position because he's one of the only bad guys in the galaxy. Like, who's going to go up against a red crossguard edgy lightsaber force wielder? No one is going to touch that because they know Kylo Ren ain't afraid to choke a bitch. And then there's this dumb bullshit with the Wayfinder and finding the Sith planet of Exegol. Yeah, he just easily takes care of a bunch of NPCs basically, and walks in and finds a bunch of Sith followers and then a zombie Palpatine who is on life support. I will give it a plus that Palpatine looking like a freaking zombie and whatnot, that was actually pretty cool. And he's like, I have been every voice inside your head. Okay, that actually kind of works to a point. Like, Ren thinks he's talking to Darth Vader, but originally Snoke was the one who was putting that in his head, and then we find out Snoke was just a puppet. And that's stupid because Snoke was supposed to be a completely random character. A new character, I mean. But instead, they make him an NPC. I got notes written on paper, so it might seem out of order whenever I'm doing this review. I don't care, because this movie was trash. And then after that whole deal, whenever Palpatine teases that he knows Rey's identity, then we get a shot of Finn, Poe, Chewie, and a random slugman on the Millennium Falcon, and they race to this ice planet, because we all know we need an ice planet in these movies. And something about blah blah spy talking about the Final Order. Oh yeah, in that beginning, they did bring up a whole fleet, which how do they have the time or the resources or anything to do that? And how does he have enough power to rise them out of the Force if he's on freaking life support? Yeah, he's the most powerful Sith, but if you're like close to death on life support, if you're able to do that, you shouldn't have to be on life support. It makes no sense. Oh, and then Rey's training with a CGI'd Leia using recycled lines. We all know that when you use a recycled line, it's not going to work out well. I mean, remember that South Park episode where they killed off Isaac Hayes' character, Chef, and they used recycled lines? It was very off-putting. The dialogue, everything that had dialogue with Leia, off-putting. It would have been better to do what they did with Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. Rogue One, also one of the few good Star Wars movies. Sure, I didn't like it that much because it's having to play off another plot and was really unnecessary. But they CGI'd both a young Leia and Grand Moff Tarkin. But Rey's training was a bit stupid, but it did establish one thing, that Rey is becoming too emotional, which is something that happened to both Luke and Anakin. Now, both Anakin and Kylo Ren, they both were susceptible to the emotion, whereas Rey and Luke had to learn to not give in to it. Oh, and then some point after, Rey, Finn, and Poe reunite as their best buds, but they never do enough building to show that there's anything there. So everything that happens between the trio, it's really not heartfelt. So while they're at the base, on whatever planet they're on, they're talking about trying to find somebody to get to that planet, because now they know that the Emperor is still alive from the stupid spy. Whatever, it would have been better if somewhere down the line they learned that the Emperor is still alive and it just comes as a shock. But no one's shocked. It's horrible script writing. And somehow Rey has those books that Luke preserved. Yet, in The Last Jedi, all those books that Luke had, Yoda burned on Ahch-To. Which is very, very weird, because J.J. Abrams was doing everything he could in his power to retcon The Last Jedi. And that was absolute shit. And then after that, they decided they're going to go to Pisana, and there's this stupid festival going on with random creatures, and some kid asks Rey where her name is. It's a dumb plot point that I felt like was added in just so that they could have one final cool, edgy line that is just gonna blow people away. No, it didn't. And then soon, the Knights of Ren arrive, and a bunch of stormtroopers, blah blah blah. Which Rey starts talking to Ren about the whole identity and stuff. Which who cares about the Knights of Ren, honestly? Because we were first introduced to them in The Force Awakens, they're such a mystery. They didn't have enough ground in Force Awakens. In The Last Jedi, that was abandoned, and now they just randomly appear in The Rise of Skywalker. It's so stupid. Um, then when they're searching for a stupid dagger that was mentioned in the sacred text, that meme, they encounter quicksand. And Finn's about to say something that never gets come back to, but it was probably the popular trope that Finn is in love with Rey. But Rey doesn't feel that way, so she friend zones him. Basically. And they come into this cave of tunnels looking for that dagger, which they did, and that Sith assassin, he never made it out alive, and they just find this giant tapeworm. And they're ready to kill it, and they're like, no, don't blast it, and Rey just randomly force heals. So force healing is a thing now. Sorry if I'm talking too fast. Force healing. Yep, this is going to be a Deus Ex Machina in there. Some point after being before going into the quicksand, they were rescued by Lando, who's just been there for a long time because he knew about the Sith dagger too. It's so weird. Like it's so out of order. I think I'm out of order on this, but maybe it is the right order. But then they retrieve a Sith dagger, C-3PO sees it, and is like, oh, I know what it says, but my programming forbids me from telling you what it is. Well, if it's forbidding you from telling you what it is, then maybe it should forbade you from reading it. So then they go to this dumb, almost frozen planet that's stuck forever in nighttime called Kijimi. And there's this exposition between Poe Dameron and another girl whose name is like Zora or whatever. I never cared about the name. I never caught it. And then blah blah blah. There's that bullshit because they finally learned that Poe was a spice runner, and that there was stuff with her, and there was a lot of conflict because he went to join the Resistance. This would have been better if they started building off of this from The Force Awakens, where it's like, oh, I have a troubled past, and then Last Jedi was like, oh yeah, I was a spice runner and a former criminal, and then now it makes no sense. And they try to add in comedy throughout the movie, including Finn making fun of Poe for being a spice runner of spice. So anyways, they take him into this basement, and C-3PO is getting worked on by Babu Frick, and they gotta wipe his memory. He's like, I'm taking one last look at my friends. Yeah, of course they were never going to stick to that. It would have been better to stick to that so that they have one character that doesn't remember everything about the entire Skywalker saga. But no, fan service is stupid. So yeah, they learn about it, and they learn about Exgol and the one of two Wayfinders. Big ol' MacGuffin. And we have Rey versus Ren before Kijimi, whenever they were still on Pisana. Ugh. Ugh. At one point, whenever Rey was facing off against Kylo Ren and others, afterwards, Chewie got caught by the Knights of Ren. They were taking him on a transport ship. And this is where the dumb sequence of Rey and Kylo Ren playing tug of war with that ship, where she becomes so angry at him and jealous of his power that she uses Force Lightning and blows up. Like, oh no, Chewie's dead. Yeah, another thing that they didn't stick to, because it's learned that Chewie was on a different transport ship and he's still alive. Like I said, fan service is so stupid. It would have been better to leave him dead, because after all, it basically seems like what C-3PO did was in vain. And even with the dagger and C-3PO, they learned that the droid that was also on that Sith assassin's ship already knew all along. 3 different things. 2 of them meaningless. I know. This is just pissing me off more. Um, and sometime on Kijimi, of course, Ren knows she's there because of that force bond established by Snoke. And they fight. They spill fruit on the floor. The Star Destroyer. Uh, they clash and destroy the pedestal that has Vader's helmet. And she's like, "Oh, that's no." Ren is like, "Oh, that's where you are." And then this is where another retcon of the Last Jedi comes in, where Kylo was like, "Yes, your parents were nobodies, but they were also. But your father was the son of Palpatine, and your mother was the daughter-in-law, but they chose to be nobodies. Yeah, if they were really nobodies, they wouldn't have that bloodline to Palpatine." Ugh, it's so stupid. I mean, yeah, we kind of saw it coming, Rey Palpatine, but damn. This is worse than Endgame. Sure, Endgame was a decent movie, but it was not great. It's just so much hype around it. It had so much fan service that makes it awful. And then on when they're escaping the Star Destroyer, turns out Hux was a spy. Yeah, because everyone needs a redheaded stepchild, so he has himself get shot to play it off, and then he just gets executed by the other general, who reveals he's been in cahoots with Palpatine the entire time. But if that was true, why is he just introduced now? So Hux is dead. And then the Star Destroyer has this giant freaking turret that looks like it came from the Star Killer base, but compacted, which is so stupid, in 2 years' time. And it destroys Kijimi. Utterly useless. It's stupid. They do this every finale. Try to make something big. Ugh. This is stressful. And of course, they go to a forest moon of Endor or whatever it was, to where the second Death Star crashed. And they use the Sith dagger to locate where that Wayfinder is. Stupid little tool. Why would a Sith assassin have a thing that can locate the Wayfinder when he really has no reason to go to Exegol? If he already knows that he doesn't need the Wayfinder at all. And we find Janna, who is a former First Order trooper like Finn, so it's a possible hint at a relationship or a bloodline. We never know. Another bit of fan service we hate. Let's see. Rey versus Ren Part 3, where whenever Rey locates the Wayfinder, she has a vision of Sith Rey and repeated a line that Leia said earlier, which was, "Don't be afraid of yourself." And a lightsaber deal, that was stupid. And a dying Leia. Why couldn't he just kill Leia off in Last Jedi? Because Mary Poppins Leia was some of the stupidest. It was more stupid than the whole concept of midi-chlorians. Ugh. And this is when Rey versus Ren Part 3 comes in. And they fight. And whenever they learn about Leia dying, Rey just impulsively kills Ren and then heals him. This would have been one of the perfect points where they do a new plot twist that could take this movie in a new direction, but they didn't. They ruined every chance they had. Instead of just leaving Kylo Ren to be injured and just have Rey fully turn to the dark side and redeem Kylo Ren to Ben Solo, they don't. I would have loved to see Rey become a true enemy, kill off Rey, and just have Ben live. Spoiler alert. No, and then after she leaves Kylo Ren after healing him, which is stupid. It's like having a one. It's like having a one night stand, not bothering to clean up your mess. It's weird. Anyways, she's still there. She finds Luke's Force Ghost. He gives him Leia's lightsaber, which evidently Luke and Leia were training after Return of the Jedi. Yet, if there was no sequel trilogy, then Leia would have had no reason to really train at all. They were supposed to be done for. And she saw a whole bunch of stuff about the future, like Beverly did in Stephen King's It. It's so stupid. But one cool thing, he raises his X-Wing. He's like, here, take this. And at some point, Kylo Ren redeems himself whenever he's talking to his father, which his father is not a Force ghost, but instead something trapped in memory. It's bullshit. And then suddenly, R2-D2 restores C-3PO's memory after it was supposed to be said that R2-D2's memory banks are supposed to be unreliable. Absolute bullshit. Ah. Now we're getting into Act 3. A 3-hour movie that was absolute bullshit. So basically, she gets to that Sith place, and there's a whole bunch of Sith followers in that Coliseum underground. And Palpatine is like, I know you want to kill me. If you do, my essence will be transferred to you, and you will become the true Empress, because you're my granddaughter, and blah, blah, blah. It would have been cool. Because, like, yeah, I'm supposed to end you, and I'm going to end you, and she does, but then... yeah. At the point where she used Force Lightning, she was supposed to be irredeemable, but somehow, because she's Disney's favorite Mary Sue, they just do that bullcrap. And she's about to complete the ritual, which was, I was ready for her to become a Sith. I was. But then, and she was doing it because all her friends were dying. And then she knows Ben is there, and they're the Knights of Ren, so a new Force ability is that she can just drop her lightsaber behind her back, and then it gets handed to Ben. And he takes out the Knights of Ren, which honestly, it would have been a much better felt scene if the Knights of Ren actually meant something. Let's say. Then whenever Ben comes in to help in Leia with the Skywalker sabers, Palpatine revives himself, this was actually a cool scene. He is no longer a zombie, he's back to his usual self, and then he just sends a whole massive Force lightning to send a massive EMP to send the Resistance fleet down. But shouldn't they have blown up instead of just fall? But no. Plot. And Palpatine just Force strikes Ben to go falling down a chasm. Well, that makes his redemption arc stupid. And as Rey is down, she hears the voices of Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Ahsoka Tano, Yoda, Mace Windu, Kanan Jarrus, Luke, and Anakin. This would have been better if we saw Force Ghosts. Kind of like how in Deathly Hallows Part 2, Harry sees his parents, Lupin, Tonks, Sirius. It would have been better that way, but no. We had to go with this because we don't want to show any familiar faces because our plot is bullshit. Ugh. But anyways, this is where the worst fight scene comes in because Palpatine sends a bunch of Force lightning and she's dual-wielding sabers after she gets up. But it is a cool kill shot, but a horrible fight scene. It doesn't build up. Like, can't we just see Palpatine versus Rey in a lightsaber battle? No. There's Force lightning. And she kills Palpatine by using his lightning to disintegrate him, kind of like Voldemort died whenever the Avada Kedavra curse reflected back onto him. But instead of her still being alive, she dies basically, but then Ben is back, and he revives her, because evidently Force Resurrection is a thing. If apparently you could do that, Luke could have revived Anakin. Hell, Rey could have revived Luke. Luke could have revived... It's inconsistent. Ooh. Oh, and then Reylo kisses because fans are, and then he disappears along with Leia's body disappearing that was under a cloak because you don't have the body of Carrie Fisher anymore. Oh, it's bullshit. And then once Palpatine is down, they destroy the main destroyer. That massive Resistance fleet just destroys the Final Order, which makes the Sith Armada a bunch of bullshit. And then after that, they get back home. There's another trio hug because no one cares about the trio, but it's made to think that the trio actually has something, but they're not as heartfelt as the teenage cast of It from 2017. But they're celebrating. There's really no Force ghosts at all, like in Return of the Jedi. Chewie gets Han's medal because Maz Kanata is like, you deserve it. No. Why can't you just stick to something instead of giving to freaking fan service? This is worse than the Star Wars Christmas special. I never saw it, but I saw a clip of it. I knew it was cringy. Ugh. And after some point, Rey goes back to Tatooine, and she buries Luke and Leia's sabers. That's a good plot point. It's like, yeah, we're burying the Skywalkers. And as long as these Skywalkers or anything dealing with them still amasses, it would be like that. It would have been cool if we could have seen Ben's Force Ghost since he got redeemed like Anakin did, but no. And she has a yellow saber now, which, why is that even important? It's so stupid. And this random old person on Tatooine is like, what's your name? She's like, Rey. She's like, Rey what? She looks off in the distance. Twin suns show Luke and Leia. Could have done more with this. And she's like, she's Rey Skywalker. This entire movie was bullshit. Last Jedi was better. Sure, Last Jedi just made a lot of things seem like complete bullcrap, or it went into a completely new direction, but I like that, because every Star Wars movie recycles stuff. Return of the Jedi was starting to recycle A New Hope. Phantom Menace was starting to recycle A New Hope. Force Awakens recycling A New Hope. Attack of the Clones recycling Empire Strikes Back. Last Jedi, sort of like Empire Strikes Back, but something new, kind of like Empire Strikes Back did. Revenge of the Sith. You know what? I'll give it a pass. Because it didn't do similar things like Return of the Jedi. Rise of Skywalker. Repeating A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, and whatnot. It was all around horrible. J.J. Abrams' worst movie. He did better with Star Trek. And plus there was a second of social justice pandering that doesn't even matter and was complete bullshit. I did not like this movie. Whenever me and my brother saw it, it was absolute nonsense. And at one point during the movie, just to end on a light note, I snuck in 10 McDonald's chicken nuggets. And I was eating them in the theater while sneaking in a can of Dr. Pepper like this. I'm actually surprised I got away with it because there are tons of people in the theater. The past couple movies I've gone to, there was like no one. But I managed to sneak in a Dr. Pepper and some McDonald's chicken nuggets. It was great. So yeah, you're probably not going to like this video because, so you're basically going to dislike it or you're going to comment on it that you hate it. I don't care. I'm staying by what I said. The Rise of Skywalker was probably one of the worst Star Wars films of all time. I've been Dash Island from Broad Culture.